Good evening, Lakeville. This is the September 13th, 2023 Senior Center Addition Feasibility Study Committee meeting. Why don't we just all take a second to go around the room and introduce who we are? We can start on this
Sure.
side.
Rafael Tasca from RT Architecture.
Ari Sky, Town Administrator.
Katie DeRochers from the Finance Committee.
Leah Fabian from the Select Board. Lori Fahey, COA Director.
Lee Dowling, Building Commissioner.
Paul Need, Facilities Manager.
All right, thank you, everyone. So just because I don't want to forget to do this, I'm asking that we take number 4 out of order, which is to approve the minutes from the last meeting. So I would entertain a motion to approve the minutes of July 19th, 2023.
So moved.
Second.
Does anyone have any comments, questions, corrections on those minutes? All right, all those in favor? Aye.
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 All right, thank you. So we did that, so we won't forget. The next thing we have, when we were working on the agenda, I know at the last meeting, one of our next steps was to sort of fine tune, I guess that was the term that we used, the report, because there were a few things that we were questioning some information on. So I'd like to take a few minutes to go over those things, and I will give myself the opportunity to go first. One of the questions that had come up was about the septic, and I think either there was an incorrect stating in the feasibility study, or I just want to be sure that we've corrected some of the things that we identified at the last meeting. So I believe the building commissioner, Nate Darling, made a mention of we're in a zone A, but I just didn't know if the project manager folks could tell us if this has been amended in the draft, because we haven't seen a whole new draft, right? Okay.
Correct. So I know that conversation happened between George and Nate and other folks in town about the septic system. We have not amended the document yet. It will be amended for the next meeting.
Okay.
As far as the outcome of the conversation, I can't tell you the details right now. I wasn't part of it, but we'll make sure that it makes it to the next report.
Okay, so that was one that I had. We had a question on the grease trap. Is that something that everyone else had a note on too, or am I the only one that had that note? If I'm the only one, maybe I misunderstood, but I thought there was a question about the current grease trap. So if you could just note that, just to be sure. I have it highlighted too, so I'm not quite sure what someone might have said. If there is something. I think another area that was identified, I thought the report said we have well water, and I believe it's actually town water here. So I just wanted to be sure, for file, we can, get that.
Okay.
Make sure that's corrected in the report. I believe, Nate, one of the other things was the age of the generator.
Yep.
I'm not sure, do you want to fill us in on that one there?
Yeah, I believe it says in the report that the generator was the same age as the building, and we were just gonna update that to reflect the newer generator. It's
Yes.
3 years old. And like, as Leah mentioned, we did talk a little bit about the septic expansion, but we gotta know the design load of what the current spaces that we're looking at. But the septic tank itself is in a zone A. The field is outside of that, but any repairs that need to be done are gonna have to go through the Board of Health, but the tank is in a zone A. The other one, we talked a little bit about fire protection too. Whatever square footage we add, if it's gonna hit a 7,500 square foot threshold, or not. And if it is, then it's gonna require, updated, installation
Installation of the system.
of a sprinkler system, yep.
One other area that I had was, we did talk a little bit about the HVAC system, which I believe is reflected properly, that it's as old as the building. I think that was reflected properly.
Yep.
Was the building on the front page, yeah, it said 18 years and it's 20.
20 years ago.
Okay,
Yep.
yep, right on the
Just wanna make
first
sure.
page
Yep.
there, so that should be 20 years. That's what I have. Does anyone else have any
Yep.
other corrections for, that we could give you to be sure when you do
The
work
final
on it, that we're not coming across anything else that may need to be looked at? That's all I had, actually. I think. Do you have any other?
I'm not sure how in-depth you want to get. On page 2, under recommendations, there was installation of new gutters. I just want to let you know that Paul Nee, our facilities manager, had just put, what are those called, Paul?
The gutter guards.
Gutter guards on-
existing-
on the existing.
gutters.
Okay, there are a few areas that do not have gutters and downspouts.
Okay.
Yeah.
That- I believe that was the recommendation.
Okay.
Okay. All right. Pardon me. Oh, weather alert, sorry. Oh, okay. Okay, so I think everything else we said was fairly accurate, correct, in the report? I don't think anyone else has anything else. And that's pretty much what that agenda item was. I just wanted us to be sure that we definitely went over those comments, just to be sure when you're working on the final copy, so we can come across that. So, we are waiting for perhaps some other folks to join us, but until they get here, we can discuss how we got to this place. So at the last meeting we asked Lori Fahey, director, to put together a group of folks who actually use the facility daily, weekly, whatever it is, who participate, who are either part of the Council on Aging or the Friends Group, I think it was, and we wanted their opinion on what they seem to feel as though the needs are, or the future needs would be for this building. So I do want to wait for them to get here, but in the meantime, maybe you can explain to us how you put the group together, just briefly, it doesn't have to be.
Sure, no, I wanted to get a group of folks that have a real interest and in the senior center and participate in a lot of the programming. A lot of the girls in this group, they volunteer, they are instructors, they're in the COA board, they're also in the Friends of the Lakeville Senior Center, they do a lot of fundraising, they participate in the exercise classes and just a lot of the events. So they're more aware of how things operate daily here at the senior center. I do know, at the last meeting, Nate had also asked if I could check with other senior centers to see what it was we weren't able to do because of space. At this time, I would say just more programming. So there's not particular groups, hey Joanne, you can come and see. There's no particular functions we're not able to hold or do, it's just the number of them we're able to do. Some functions, we can close the wall and have 2 programs, and then others you just can't, because if one needs quiet and one's noisy, it's just a little bit more difficult to line them up properly. But as far as programming, we do everything we can with what we have. So I guess we're not really missing out on anything per se. When I look at the other senior centers, the only thing we don't do that some of them do is hold night programs. And that really doesn't have to do with whether we have the addition or not, as to whether we have night programs. So I hope that answers your question a little bit.
Yeah, a little bit.
A little bit. Well, actually,
I mean, the crux of why I was asking the question, I wanted to make sure, because I don't know the facility as far as a program needs.
Okay.
Was that, are we doing anything, or are we not doing anything for our residents that we should be? And, you know, that could be any number of different offerings that you see in other towns that the seniors like. You know, I just want to, you know, that's the selling point, I think, for the cost of an addition. How do we make sure our seniors are getting what they want and what they deserve?
so that, I guess I probably looked at it the wrong way. Food pantry, we're in need of, we don't have room for. We
a great
used to, we used to accommodate the brown bag program, and at one point we had 42 seniors that were in the brown bag program. The church we used to get the food from the food bank, closed down. And so Freetown's picked it up, but Freetown doesn't have the resources for our seniors to pick their food up there. And we don't have the room to do it because it requires space where they come in large boxes. And then we have volunteers that come in and bag up the brown bags, and then the seniors come and pick them up. So now, because we have Meals on Wheels program in-house, we're kind of using every little nook and cranny that we can. So in that respect, yes, I'd like to get the brown bag program back again. That's something that, because of space, we don't have.
The only other thing that I would like to add is there's a lot of towns that do senior daycare, and we are in no way near being able to offer something like that. First of all, we don't have space. Second of all, we don't have staff. But for anyone who may be watching this meeting, it's not something that a lot of us haven't discussed. I know Ari and I sat down, I don't even know how long ago, Ari, and we were just trying to figure out,
More than once, I think.
yeah, more than once, how much we would have to, you know, increase the senior center budget by to be able to afford at least 2 or 3 people or more in order to do, and yes, some folks would pay to use the services for their loved ones, but it's almost like we can't even try to do that until we have the space to do it. So it's like the entire town would have to make a commitment to doing that before we could, you know, say, hey, we're gonna do this. So it's definitely something that a lot of us have talked about. Some of us have worked on it in a financial way, and I know we've talked about it before, and we just don't have the resources that it would require. I don't know if that adds to one of the things that, you know, you're talking about, Nate, but I wish we could, but.
I've actually reached out to Middleborough's director, and I'm gonna go over and meet up with her, and she's gonna show me around her program and tell me a little bit about
What they have.
yeah, budgets
for
and what they
budgets.
have. I believe they have 3 employees right now,
Yeah.
just for the day program,
Yep.
the supported day program.
And, you know, it's not something that we're gonna completely dismiss forever and ever, but, you know, again, that could be something that's on a, you know, 3 to 5 year plan, but we can't do anything unless we have more space, so, okay. Do we know how many folks we're anticipating? Do you ladies know if anyone else will be joining from the group?
The only one I know
Nan?
that isn't expected is Donna Adams. She was the only one that told me she was not coming.
So then,
There's Paula.
And Nan.
Yeah, so I would
Nan
expect
said
2
she's
more.
okay.
Just
We had a
about
little
5
mix up with
p.m.
the posting, so we started a little early, but we really haven't gone over much yet. We haven't talked at all about the work that you folks have all done. So while we're waiting, why don't we just ask you ladies to let us know who you are, if you don't mind?
Okay, I'm Mary Gothier. I'm a member of the Friends of the Council on Aging.
Okay,
I'm Charlene Montleon. I'm a member of the Friends of the Council on Aging, and I'm on the board.
okay.
I'm Joanne Bose. I'm a member of the Friends of COA, and I'm on the board too.
Okay, thank you. And Lori told us a little bit about how she put the group together, you know, saying that some folks were from the Friends group, some folks were from the council, but all of you participate here in one way or another. So it's just the one more person that we're?
2. I
Two.
believe we're waiting on 2.
Okay. So The next agenda item is where we're gonna get into some of this. So it says, discuss potential service configurations and programming options. Ari, do you wanna help me out a little bit on this one here? And, is that exactly what that means? I'm not sure, 'cause we all got some of this information a little late, so I
Yeah.
have to rely on folks.
I'm seeing it pretty fresh too, I think I'll probably walk everybody through. I think the idea was that the stakeholder group would talk about what they had in mind, talk to them, and then the file would show what they put together.
Okay.
What we could do, we could probably do a presentation and start with that, and then
Yeah, do you wanna,
If you folks are ready, absolutely.
yeah, okay, why don't we, can you just say your name again so the ladies know?
So I'm Rafael Tasco from RT Architecture, and I've been working with George, who I believe met with you.
Yeah, we met last time, yeah.
On
Yeah.
2 occasions in August.
Yeah, so if you wanna do the presentation, it's behind
Unfortunately,
us.
it's right behind you.
Okay, that's okay.
But you
We'll
have
turn.
swivel chairs. Yeah, good evening, everyone. So you're looking at the schedule. Those are the events that already took place. We looked at the existing building evaluation. That meeting happened on July 19th. And there were 2 meetings. George met with Laurie and the advisory committee twice in August to go over the building use, program deficiencies, and the program needs. So there was a lot of items discussed during the last 2 meetings with Laurie and the advisory committee, and here are the highlights. And Laurie, please add to it if I left anything out. So looking at some of the highlights, one of the big items discussed was larger space for group activities, and those activities would be dedicated area for fitness equipment, possibility of a mirror wall for workouts and dance instruction, and an idea whether or not a great room would be a square or a rectangle, depending on the availability on the site and functionality of the space. And we will get back to that once we take a look at the possible options. Another item was a dedicated computer room, dedicated VA office with exterior dedicated entry, a new sound intercom system for events, fire protection system, whether it's a part of the renovation or part of the addition and renovation process, possible dedicated area for the food pantry, size and function of the kitchen, given the overlapping events, occupancy sensors for lighting, touchless plumbing fixtures and hand dryers, and a concern that currently there is only one ADA restroom. As we can see, some of the items are cosmetic in nature, and some items are big ticket items that would require an addition to the building. And some items can be resolved without altering the existing building purely by changing the program arrangements and scheduling. So as you all know, every space in the building is used very efficiently, and items such as fire protection, lighting improvements, new sound systems can be part of a renovation process. But adding a new large, multi-purpose room, dedicated computer room, and VA office would require an addition to the building. So looking at your existing site plan, there are easily identifiable site constraints. One of them being the property line on the left-hand side. That's the red dotted line. That property line has a 40-foot side setback, which is approximately the edge of the parking lot. So that entire area is a no-build zone. We also have the waterfront buffer by the lake. Good evening. And then we have the tennis courts on the right-hand side. And we wanna maintain a healthy buffer between the tennis courts and any possible additions on the building to maintain circulation, a little bit of landscaping, and a clear area between the tennis courts and the fence. So the 2 buildable areas are the yellow bubbles. One would be closer to the lake, that would allow for a smaller addition, and the other larger addition that could house all of the needed spaces would be between the existing building and the tennis courts. So looking at your existing floor plan, and I know that you're all very familiar with the building, but just to reorient ourselves, you are in the large blue rectangle right in the middle with the kitchen on the left and the offices on the right. So we looked at 2 schemes. One scheme being adding a smaller addition closer to the lake. That would be approximately 800 square feet. The scheme would demonstrate a 3 or 4 season room adding on the lake side. It could be very open with lots of glass and connect to the existing screened-in porch. This would give a possibility of a new courtyard between the addition and the existing great room. New room could be used for physical activities, exercise equipment, etc. And there is an opportunity for an extended patio for outdoor activities. This configuration would easily attach to the existing building, not without any serious modifications of the existing roofs. So this would be very buildable. Trying to fill in that entire corner would require modifications to the existing building. So that's the smaller scheme, and then scheme number 2 would be the larger addition, which is approximately 2,140 square feet, as shown currently. And that shows a large addition next to the tennis courts. This addition would house a new large room, the great room, which could be dividable in half, just like you have here. A new computer room on the facing the front of the building. A new VA office with a dedicated entrance, new accessible restrooms, 2 of them, as well as a storage room. And part of the great room, we can also carve out an area for a food pantry, whether that's an enclosed room or part of the open floor plan. That's something that we can absolutely discuss and adjust on the floor plans. So there was a question about the rectangular room versus a large square room. We do want to maintain that buffer between the tennis courts and the possible addition. What's shown right now, it's approximately 25 to 30 feet away from the tennis courts, which is already pretty tight. It does allow for circulation around the building and the healthy buffer between the tennis court and the fences. So pushing that wall closer to the tennis court is doable. We would have to make some changes on the site though. So the next steps is to get your feedback on what we're showing here today. We will adjust the floor plans based on your comments. We will develop those 2 schemes to the next level, meaning exterior elevations, perspectives, how the additions would actually marry the existing building, and then we would come up with construction estimates for 3 options. One would be just a renovation of the existing building with the improvements of lighting, fire protection, plumbing, aesthetics, miscellaneous items. The smaller addition closer to the lake, and then addition that you see on the screen, and that would help you inform your decision.
I have a question.
Yes.
Sure. Is it okay to ask a question? How do you see the programmatic enhancements involved with this? It come with a smaller edition compared to the larger edition?
After sitting down with George and the subcommittee and really going over things, I personally, and I think the subcommittee kind of was in agreement when we were discussing that the smaller scheme just wouldn't add for what we actually need. Yeah, it wouldn't.
Even the
It's only-
outdoor space that it provides with the patio?
Yeah, it's only adding 800 square feet, so it would probably add enough room for additional space for a program during good weather or exercise, but then all the other space that we need things for, it would be lacking. So I don't know if that's something you'd even want to drop out of discussions. I don't know what the group thinks, if you want to ask them.
Okay, so just to let you know, we did start a little early because we had a confusion on the time, but everyone's already introduced themselves. If you want to let us know who you are and what group you represent. Or
I'm Nancy Richmond, and I'm on the board, and I'm a friend of the Lakeville COA.
Okay, all right, so welcome everyone. I don't know if you want to we don't have to be really formal here with meeting and stuff, but if you want to just, give us an idea of the things that you came up with, because this is information that we should know, because you all use the building so much more frequently, you're here all the time, and maybe you can, shed some light on the type of programming that, in addition to what we already saw here, but, why it is that, so.
Can I just bring up a couple of points on
Absolutely.
what we just went over? The new intercom system, the sound system, just so you know, I'm currently working with Jose with LakeCAM. So we're currently working together on that, so that may be something that can be not looked into in the study. When you mentioned the size of the function of the kitchen, I've pretty much walked through it, and I really think just reconfiguring some things, we don't actually need extra space on that. It's one day, I know it is difficult on that one day, but it's about one day a month that things overlap, and I think if we reconfigure, we move out one of the freezers, put it in a different room. I could even get rolling carts or even an island type of table. I think I can make it more workable for the girls rather than having to bring that into the feasibility
Okay.
study as well.
Perfect.
From what I've seen, we actually have a really good sized kitchen. We
Yes,
really
you
do. Compared to a lot of senior centers, it's really a nice kitchen. Just trying to think what we touched on. I know one of the big considerations that everyone was in agreement on was the square versus the rectangle. So I just heard your reasoning for that. And this is just a question that popped up. Looking at the addition, the back portion that's towards the pond side, would that be further away from the tennis court? Say if you wanted to make